Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are coming at you with a Utah Jazz off-season preview. And in case you didn't know, Donovan Mitchell is probably my favorite player in the entire NBA. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he'll be the best shooting guard in the game at some point, and I just love watching him play. And on top of that, I really like this Jazz team, and I think that they have a chance to be really good. So let's get right into this video. Their coach is Quinn Snyder. I think Quinn's a really good coach. I think that he's a top 10 coach in the NBA. Obviously, there were a few mistakes made in this series against the Nuggets. I would have loved it if he would have gone to a trapping defense on Jamal Murray. I think that would have been a perfect answer to Murray's onslaught of jumpers. But he didn't do that, which is a bit unfortunate. Another thing was he had Royce O'Neal on the floor with 12 seconds left in Game 7 when they were down 2 and needed a shot to tie it up or win it. And Jeremy Grant was guarding Royce, and he just completely left Royce alone on the wing and went after Donovan, put a bunch of pressure on him, and Gary Harris was able to force a turnover there. That was really... Imagine if that was Jordan Clarkson. He has so much more gravity as a shooter. That's one thing I think Quinn made a big mistake on. But overall, I think Quinn's a pretty good coach, and I think the Jazz should definitely hang on to him. There's no way he should be going anywhere. He's a good coach. He's got a good relationship, it seems like, with the players, and I'm happy with him as the coach of the Utah Jazz. In the draft, this is an interesting pick for them. I'm not real sure what they'll do with it, but at 23, if someone like Tyrese Maxey, Trey Jones, RJ Hampton, or Cole Anthony falls to them here, I would love to see them take one of those guys. Guys that have some good upside. They're good guard players. Obviously, their position may overlap with Donovan a little bit, but in Maxey and Hampton, I guess, Jones and Anthony are both point guards, although Anthony I don't view as a point guard. I don't like Cole Anthony, I'll say that right now. I think that he's going to end up being a shooting guard, and he's 6'2". He can't guard twos. He's just not a good enough playmaker to play the one. I think that he's Austin Rivers or Jordan Clarkson in a smaller body. Something like that, where he's just not a good playmaker, not a good defender, out there to score the ball, and I'm not even sure that he'll be able to do all that well. So I think that Cole Anthony's a bust. So I would not like to see the Jazz take him there. Although maybe they just see more than I do, and obviously they know more about basketball than me. So maybe that is someone they like if he's still on the board. Obviously, a lot of people think he's going to go in the lottery, so if he's still on the board there, it might be a really good value pick, and maybe they can trade him for something good. I don't know. I like Maxey a lot, so if he's here, I think that you have to take him. And I also think Trey Jones could be a really good pick for them as a backup point guard for the future. He's also a really good defender, won SEC Defensive Player of the Year this season. And the Jazz really just need a better defender at the point of attack. As you saw in the playoffs, Jamal Murray just ate them up. And if they had a good defender on him, it could have really changed the series, and the Jazz probably would have won it in about 5 games. So that could be a game changer for them. Otherwise, if they want to draft a wing, they're not going to be able to get one of the top wings in the draft at this spot. They're not going to be able to get a guy like Aaron Nesmith or Sadiq Bey or Patrick Williams or Isaac Okoro or Devin Vassell. Obviously, those guys are all going way earlier than 23. So they'll be forced to settle for someone more like Leandro Bolmaro, Desmond Bane, Robert Woodard, Elijah Hughes, or Cassius Stanley. So if they really like one of those guys, that could be a good pick for them here. I know that wing is probably the position of greatest need for them right now at the small forward. They've got Royce O'Neal starting. At the power forward, Bogdanovic is solid, but off the bench, their wings are Joe Ingles and George Niang, and I like those guys a lot. So actually, I think they're not bad there, but I know a lot of Jazz fans want them to take a wing with this pick, so if they like Bolmaro, Bane, Woodard, Hughes, or Stanley, that could be a nice selection. But I definitely think if one of the guards is still there, that would be a great pick. Otherwise, if one of the big guys there's some big guys in this draft that could end up dropping, guys like Precious Achua, Jalen Smith, and Isaiah Stewart, who could all end up being pretty decent players. If they like one of those guys, this is a good spot for them to draft them too. A lot of directions the Jazz could go in with this draft pick. My favorite is Tyrese Maxey, but he probably won't be on the board. Trey Jones is my second favorite. He also probably won't be on the board. So, if in that case, I think that a good pick for them would probably be the big guy, so like Achua, Smith, or Stewart, if one of those guys is still on the board. In terms of trades, I've heard some Donovan Mitchell trade rumors. No, I think he's way too good. You cannot trade Donovan. He's a great player. He's going to continue to get better. This season, I saw it in him. He wanted to win so bad in that playoff series, and he just didn't have enough help around him. And with Bogdanovich coming back, I think that this team is going to be so good next year. I think this team is a NBA championship dark horse next season, because I think Donovan's going to take a step forward. They're going to have that scoring coming back with Bogdanovich healthy. Mike Conley's going to have a better season. I think this team is going to be so good. So I hope that they don't trade Donovan. Rudy Gobert trade is a possibility, but I don't know that they're going to be able to get all that much back from him. If the Hornets would have stayed at 8 or dropped to like 10, sure, that would be great for them. They could put together something like Rudy Gobert for the 8th pick. Maybe Miles Bridges and who's that big contract guy? I can't think of his name right now. You know who I'm talking about. Guy who's getting paid way too much money. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point. That's frustrating. Can't think of his name. But that could be a possibility right there. Nick Batum. Not sure why I couldn't remember Nicholas Batum's name, but there it is. So Nicholas Batum, 8, and like Miles Bridges or something. I think that'd be a great trade for the Jazz, but probably not going to happen. And I really don't think I'm only saying that'd be a great trade if they were absolutely going to trade Gobert. I don't think they should trade him, just because I think this team is going to be really good. The Mavs could end up doing it, something like Tim Hardaway Jr., I think they'd have to throw in Dorian Finney-Smith and Kleba probably, and the 18th pick, and maybe 31 as well. So that's a pretty solid package to bring in Rudy Gobert, or bring in for Rudy Gobert. I just don't know that. I don't like Tony Bradley very much. I don't think that he's going to be able to start at center. So in that case, who are you starting? Are you starting Kleba at center? A front court of Kleba and Bogdanovich? That does not sound very good. So I just think they should hang on to Rudy Gobert. The last possibility that I thought of was the Celtics, but I'm not even sure what they would give up, like Marcus Smart and first-round picks and Romeo Langford and Carson Edwards. That's not enough. So I'd probably just hang on to Rudy is what I would do. And obviously Rudy and Donovan did not look like they had any chemistry troubles. They were cheering for each other. They were having great connections on alley-oops and stuff. These two look like they're just fine, and everything was overblown with all the drama that took place during the quarantine. So I definitely think this team should just run it back. In terms of free agency, they have Jordan Clarkson, Emmanuel Mudiay, and Juwan Morgan. I like Juwan Morgan as a young player, and I think they should try to bring him back. I don't think it'll be too costly, and I think he has potential to be a good rotation piece for them. Mudiay, bye. Leave. Hopefully they draft Tyrese Maxey or Trey Jones or RJ Hampton as a replacement, as a backup guard, the kind of role that Mudiay had. But I don't think Mudiay is a good player. I really don't think he's a good fit on this team, because he can't really play with Conley or Mitchell, just because he likes to have the ball in his hands, and he's not good enough with it to be much of a difference maker. He didn't play much at all against the Nuggets. He pretty much fell out of the rotation. So I would not count on Mudiay to be re-signed at all. And finally, Jordan Clarkson. This is a really interesting one for me. I think it comes down to how much money he wants, because obviously he was a great spark plug for them off the bench. But I think that they need to spend their money on defense because I think that this team's got plenty of offense. Conley's going to step back up. Mitchell is going to take another step forward and become an all-NBA level player next season. Bogdanovich is a 20-point scorer. Off the bench, you got Joe Ingles, who's a great passer and shot creator. George Niang can hit shots. This team is not offensively challenged, which a lot of people think they are. But this year, they took a step backwards on defense, and I think that they need to step that back up. So Clarkson doesn't really bring that. So I would be okay with seeing Clarkson go out the door if they replace him at the guard spot with a defensive stopper. Someone like Chris Dunn or DeAnthony Melton. Those are two really good young guards, good defensive young guards, who, I mean, if they would have had Chris Dunn in that Nuggets series guarding Jamal Murray, I have no doubt in my mind that they would have won that series. So I think he could be a really big acquisition for them if the Bulls are willing to let him walk. Otherwise, if they want to sign an offensive player and they can't get Jordan Clarkson back, I think Trey Burke could be perfect for them as a backup point guard. He's just a good scorer, as we saw in the playoffs with the Mavs. And it'd be a good fit for him as someone off the bench who could just get buckets and kind of be the primary ball handler for the minutes where Donovan is resting and Conley is resting. But really, I think that a DeAnthony Melton or a Chris Dunn would be the perfect target for them as a defensive guard coming off the bench because Conley is getting up there in age. He's not a great defender anymore, and he's also just very slight of frame. And Donovan Mitchell, he's a really, really good defender. Or not a really, really good defender, but he's a good defender. He's above average, but you don't want him exhausting all his energy on the defensive end of the floor, and that's kind of what happened in Game 7 against the Nuggets, I thought. He used way too much of his energy in the third and fourth quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter guarding Jamal Murray, and he just had nothing left in the tank down the stretch. So it'd be nice to see them get another defensive stopper at that guard spot. In terms of their potential 2020-2021 rotation, Mike Conley at the point guard, Donovan at the two guard, one of the best backcourts in the NBA, because I believe that Conley can still play like he did in Memphis. He just had a bad season, and as we saw in the playoffs, this guy's still really good, and there is potential for him to step back up, and I believe he will. Donovan, I love him. I'm not even going to say anymore because basically when the Jazz were eliminated, I talked about him for 15 minutes, so I think that he's a great player. He's so good. He has so much burst getting to the rim. I think that he's going to continue to work on his jump shooting, and then that step back is going to be one of the more lethal shots in the entire NBA. I just think that Donovan Mitchell is going to be a superstar, and we saw it in the playoffs, and I think that he's just going to keep going. Royce O'Neal at the three is a good defender, a good complementary piece to the stars on this team. Bogdanovich is a good scorer. Something that they were missing in the playoffs was someone that could make a shot besides Donovan Mitchell, and having Bogdanovich return will be huge for them. He's a big reason why I see this team as being really, really good in the 2020-2021 season. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year level center. Maybe he can develop a better 10 to 15 foot jumper, but I wouldn't count on it. He's still a good rim runner. He gets a lot of screen assists, and he can throw down alley-oops. Joe Ingles, great passer off the bench. Good three-point shooter. Not great, but good. Just a really good pick-and-roll option with Gobert. Him and Gobert have really, really good chemistry there. And he's just a good sixth man for them. I'd love to see Chris Dunn as the seventh man on this team as a defensive stopper at the guard position. He could have changed the complexion of that Nuggets series, and I think that he's definitely a guy that this Jazz team should target. I'm all over Chris Dunn to the Jazz. I think that he could be a huge difference maker on this team, and I'd love to see them try to make a move for him, try to see how much they'll have to give him for Chicago to let him walk. George Niang and Ed Davis are also solid role players. I really like George Niang. He does what he needs to do. Decent defender, plays smart, knocks down open shots. Just a really decent eighth man off the bench. And Ed Davis is a decent big guy. Obviously, this wasn't his best season, but he's only 31. He's not too old. There's potential for him to have a good season still as a backup center. Some questions for this team are, do they make a blockbuster trade? I say no. No. Run it back. You are a dark horse championship contender. I love the Jazz. I think that this team is going to be really, really good in 2020, 2021. And I don't think they should look to make any big changes. Can they compete for a title is another question. I say absolutely. Absolutely. This team is really good. And I just think that they have the pieces to put together that kind of run. It all depends on how big of a step forward Donovan Mitchell can make. Can he make that step forward to becoming a best player on a championship team? And I think he can. I just think this team is going to be so, so good next year. And another question for them is, should they address offense or defense? Should they sign a Trey Burke or Chris Dunn, someone like that? Do they bring back Jordan Clarkson, or do they make a run at DeAnthony Melton as a wing off the bench? I think that the defensive route is the correct route for them after the struggles we saw in Jamal Murray. But otherwise, they can take a step forward and be a top 6 or top 7 offense this season if they do retain Jordan Clarkson and do have Bogdanovich come back. I mean, the team's going to be really hard to stop. Imagine a lineup of Conley, Mitchell, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, and Gobert. Like, those are 4 really, really good perimeter players right there on offense. So I just think that this Jazz team's going to be really good. I think they need to just run it back and try to win a championship next year. I will say it again, little biased. Jazz are my second favorite team after the Bucks, but I just see it with this team. I see it, and I see the fire in Donovan Mitchell's eyes in that Game 7. Future's bright in Utah. Next year, this team's going to be good. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Am I overrating this team? Probably a little bit, but I think they're going to be really good. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.